Hopefully, I've established some of my nerd street cred by now. I've actually been drifting around on this episode quite a bit. I want to talk about autism and about Dave Plummer and about my dear sweet Kevin Bacon, whose picture I'm going to leave up an uncomfortable amount of time just in an attempt to get more views. I've also been doing a lot of research into autism, specifically AUDHD, because it's helping me a lot. It helps make sense of a lot of things. Being a nerd, there's one question I get an awful lot, and I figured it's time to go ahead and talk about the Big Bang Theory. I try to keep things positive, so let's just say Chuck Lorre projects really aren't my cup of tea. I mean, he's a huge success, right? He's had a lot of big TV shows, and that's great. It's just not my thing. I've tried watching different incarnations of the shows he's done. The humor just doesn't land with me. And I'm pretty confident Mr. Laurie doesn't listen to this podcast regularly, but if he did, he's not going to find anything really objectionable here. You're probably thinking, way to go out on a limb here. Fresh hot take on a TV show that's been off the air for 5 years. How topical. Hell, the first spinoff ended like 3 or 4 weeks back, and I never even watched that. There have been times I felt out of the loop, but it's not a loop I'm even remotely interested in being a part of. For starters, in my opinion, the show's not really groundbreaking. It's kind of predictable and it does exactly what it was intended to do. People like to laugh at the discomfort of others, and Big Bang Theory is no different. Until I watched a couple of full episodes recently, I kind of had figured correctly that the gist of the show basically awkward nerds have hot friends, and hilarity ensues when these two worlds collide. It's the jokes at the expense of the characters that makes this difficult for me to watch. I mean, until probably 3 weeks ago, I didn't know that the main character was written from the perspective of someone with autism. I read an article with one of the co-creators of the show who's autistic himself, and he talked about the social awkwardness and a lot of the quirks present in the main character. So I watched the first couple of episodes of the series. I figured I should go into it like everyone else. Look, I understand how entertainment works. Situations are often blown up intentionally to enhance the effect. Things aren't real. I get that parts of it are supposed to be imaginary, but there's not a lot of meat there for me beyond the setups. In one episode, Sheldon was fretting about his spot on the sofa. The hot new neighbor had just moved in and she sat in his spot. And at some point, he kind of awkwardly lunged for his empty spot on the sofa, which the neighbor thought of as nothing more than a cute little quirk. Come on, man, it doesn't work like that. To my knowledge, I don't have that same vocal uptightness that Sheldon had. Maybe I'm wrong, but every time I've tried to point out something socially awkward to anyone, it's always landed flat. Part of this is my fault. I've never really understood what normal is supposed to be. I'm being serious. I mean, I tell jokes at funerals. I do things to break the tension that probably do seem pretty unusual to others. And I know this because at various points in my life, I've been asked by different people whom I do not know what my problem is or what's wrong with me. Or, and this happens the most, I just get this look that's pretty unmistakable, accompanied by a dead stare. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into it, and I don't think I am. I do know this. It is very cringy for me to watch The Big Bang Theory. Like when something bothers me a lot, I get the chicken skin and I feel like there's electricity running through my spine, and mentally I shut down. Like just talking about it, my fists are clenched and I don't feel right. Okay. If you know me in real life, you know that I have this off the charts distaste for raw tomatoes. It's a texture thing mostly. But if you've ever watched my head jerk involuntarily and watched me dry heave when I accidentally bite into a tomato, you know it's real. There's a photo of me somewhere changing a baby's diaper with a surgical mask on because I can't fucking handle the smell. And what that photo doesn't depict is the 5 or 6 drops of pure peppermint oil I hit that mask with to blow out my nostrils so I could make it through the experience without puking on a baby. Because that's weird. I mean, there's weird, and then there's he threw up on the baby. Until a few weeks ago, I'd never audibly heard myself say nope when the sensory stuff just got to me. I never realized it was so bad until I spent 2 years completely cut off from everything, and then things kind of went back to normal. I'm going to do a whole deep dive on how fucked up everything got for me during the pandemic, or how my brain literally could not process things. The first time I saw a coworker in real life, someone that I respect a tremendous amount, my brain went dark for about 45 seconds. I mean, he had depth, he was real, he was a person, and my brain was like trying to put it all together. It's like it seems weird, but like I can't recognize celebrities because I mean, like literally, somebody could walk up to me, and unless there was something unique about them, like and I know this sounds terrible, but everybody just looks kind of like a person to me, you know. Um, honestly, going back to those early days of the pandemic are and the first few weeks back in the office, it's like a David Lynch flick in my head right now. I'll be fair, and I'll say maybe the stuff on Big Bang Theory hits a little too close to home for me. I used to do this shtick about the show just not being funny, but that was negative me, and it's just not my thing. It's okay. It's fine. I'm just saying it's been super hard getting past some of the stuff on that show that seems to work in Sheldon or Leonard's favor. And the quirks are the butt of the joke. Oh, that's Sheldon. Yeah, that's me, but without the laughs. Look, no one reacts to quirks like that in real life, y'all. Like I said, I'm not hideous looking, so why do these nerds get a pass when literally no one else gets a pass? Seriously, I know I didn't get a lot of passes for being weird. I did get a piece of fucking scrap wood thrown at the back of my head after shop class in seventh grade for being weird. I know that. I don't want to get into how bullying plays into this because that's being kind of negative. Let's just say I didn't exactly lean into my weirdness until I was well into adulthood. So as I think about all this, I ask myself a lot more questions. I watch a bunch of videos from people who've been diagnosed with autism. They all look normal, and I'm sure I look mostly normal to other people. Okay, maybe my reactions aren't normal. I'll give you that one. I do know that I have certain looks that betray any secret about how I feel about something. I know someone else who had similar looks, and I didn't like seeing them when they were directed at me. I know that I don't like that I'm capable of these looks. They don't portray me for who I am. And until a couple of years ago, I was mentally miserable. I knew it. I didn't feel like anyone knew who I was or appreciated who I was, and that I was seriously underrepresented as a technologist because it's a really rare thing to find enough allies in a corporate structure that'll support you when that corporate structure is not inherently built on engineering. And all this gets me to this point where like I'm scared of at the thought of having to look for another job. I don't have any degrees. I'm sure those dudes had multiple degrees. I wish I had one. I need to make the time for it. But as you can tell by the stop and go nature of these podcasts, I don't get enough time. I don't make enough time to dedicate to myself sometimes. I'm not crying about anything. Life just gets a little full sometimes. Take care.